This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning again, everyone. So this is Brian Alexander with the North Carolina Coalition to End Homelessness, and we are here today to do our HMIS Recruitment Kickoff webinar with everyone. We are really happy that folks are here to be able to hear the goals that we have set for ourselves as a CoC to increase our bed coverage in HMIS, the Homeless Management Information System, for emergency shelter and transitional housing programs. So we're going to start today by just giving you some overview of what our HMIS bed coverage looks like in the balance of states. And I'm going to turn it over to Andrea from the NCCEH Data Center to talk us through that information.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brian. So this is where we're starting, and we want to just define a little bit about what we're talking about today. So HMIS bed coverage is a really important metric that affects our ability to get funding and understand how effective we are at ending homelessness. What this refers to is the percentage of beds in the bounds of state in our community that are participating in HMIS. And so that is determined every year during the housing inventory count, and we'll look at where we are beginning from in just a moment. But what this really does is, and why we're talking about this today, is that it does impact our funding and both our systemic understanding of how folks are experiencing homelessness and how we're delivering services. So this is integrated into the CoC scoring process, but also by participating in HMIS, we have the opportunity to understand annual data over multiple years, the patterns and the journey of a client of engagement in our system beyond, say, a one night observation with the point in time count. So HMIS is really important on a systemic level. And then also we know that HMIS is integrated more on that practical level for the coordination of services and delivery of services through the by name list and coordinated entry process. So HMIS is integral to that, and participation in HMIS makes it easier and more effective to connect folks to the housing resources that they need. So let's take a look at where our community stands. Here is a graph of HMIS coverage by project type. And so what we see here is three different colors, three different categories of beds, and then divided by shelter, transitional housing, rapid housing, and permanent supportive housing. The dark blue is HMIS participating beds. The lighter blue is non-HMIS participating beds. And then that gray is for victim service providers who actually cannot participate in HMIS. They're prohibited. So you can see that most of the beds that are not participating and could participate in HMIS are in shelter and transitional housing. And then there is a good chunk in permanent supportive housing, but that is due to HUD-VASH, the veteran resource. And we know there's other challenges with coordinating with VA services there. So let's take a little bit look at the percentage of beds that we can impact that could potentially participate in HMIS. This next graph has that same information, but we've just removed the victim service provider beds since they're prohibited by law. Can't get around that right now. So shelter and transitional housing is really going to be our focus. You can see here that shelter, we have 38% of the resources of the beds available for clients not participating in HMIS. And that's even higher for transitional housing at 65%. So we are, those are stars because we are really going to be targeting as a CoC those beds, those projects in shelter or transitional housing to join us on HMIS and participate more seamlessly in coordinated entry and ultimately housing their clients. Again, you do see the permanent supportive housing had a little bit of a bump there, and just want to clarify that there's some kind of cross-CoC, cross-regional coordination that is occurring for those HUD-BASH beds. All right, so looking at this and knowing the impact that HMIS bed coverage has, the steering committee approved 2 goals to increase our HMIS bed coverage as recommended by the Funding and Performance Subcommittee. Our first goal is around emergency shelter and increasing HMIS emergency shelter bed coverage to 75% by the end of this calendar year. And the second goal is to increase transitional housing bed coverage to 45% by the end of this calendar year. So we really looked at those 2 project types that we could have an impact on at a regional level, and picking some strong reach goals for coverage to improve our funding and coordination. Brian, do you want to add anything else here for how these goals came together?
I think both of these goals are goals that the Funding and Performance Subcommittee they really wanted to push the CoC to get the bed coverage up. I think it is a little lower on the transitional housing side, simply because from the input that the Funding and Performance Subcommittee gave and what we were hearing from around the CoC is that in a lot of communities, transitional housing programs are less connected to our regional committee network, and that it would be a lot harder to get those folks on. We know that there are a lot less transitional housing beds than there are emergency shelter beds, but I think that these are both reach goals. We're trying to be aggressive and put a sense of urgency behind getting bed coverage up. And just for the reasons that Andrea was talking about, certainly number one is service delivery and making sure that we're connecting people. And secondarily, it really does allow us to have more opportunities for funding in the future. So really important goals that the CoC has approved and are ready to start rolling out this year. All right, so we're going to talk you through a little bit of the plan. We have Amy Maudlin, who is with Trillium Health Resources, who's a member of the Funding and Performance Subcommittee, who's going to talk through how the Funding and Performance Committee has developed this plan and what you guys can expect. Amy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So the regional lead alternates have been charged with facilitating the local engagement plan. When we were discussing all of this and looking at who could possibly do it, we talked about regional leads don't really have a role except to stand in when the lead can't. So we thought this would be the perfect time for regional lead alternates to step up and really be able to be involved. They'll facilitate the local plan to engage and recruit new agencies and programs to use HMIS. They'll be forming local subcommittees to develop an action plan, prioritize agencies' programs to recruit, and assign prioritized agencies. Train recruiters. Sorry, y'all, my dog is in the background and she's distracted me and I hope y'all don't hear her. Train recruiters, evaluate progress, and report progress monthly. So the subcommittee believes that because of the size and diversity of our CoC's geographic area, we need to take both a decentralized and centralized approach to engagement and oversight. Regional committees will lead the local engagement and recruitment of providers onto HMIS, using existing relationships and local knowledge to begin conversations. I think North Carolina is so full of diverse communities, and Trillium has 26 counties, and they all feel like little mini foreign countries to us. And we have people that work in the northern region, the central region, and the southern region, and they're all so different and have just different approaches to how they engage the community. So I think this is that on a wide scale. The regional plan, again, will be facilitated by the regional lead alternate. The funding and performance subcommittee settled on the regional lead alternate as the leader of this process. Like I said earlier, because other than filling in for the regional lead when they have a conflict of interest or otherwise unavailable, the regional lead alternate does not really have a formal role in the continuum of care. So regional lead alternates will form a subcommittee of the regional committee, to help develop an action plan for engagement and recruitment that will prioritize agencies and programs for recruitment and ensure that these agencies and programs are assigned to people on the subcommittee. So everybody gets to get involved. They will train recruiters using resources that we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, evaluate progress with the assistance of the subcommittee, and report progress to the subcommittee on a monthly basis. I think for me, just on a personal level, I'm not really a data person. I've always tried to avoid it, to be honest, but I kind of forced myself to be on this committee so I could learn more about it. And over the months, I've surprisingly gotten excited about it. So as I read through this and go through this presentation again, I'm getting excited about it all over again. And that's Andrea and Brian's good work, I think. We want you to be strategic with the people you ask to be on your subcommittees. Ask people to join that operate emergency shelters and or transitional housing programs and already use HMIS. They'll already understand how HMIS can be used by these programs and can share their own experience and positives of using the system. Do you have a person that is highly connected in your region? That person that knows everyone is trusted by your regional partners. That's someone you need to be on your committee. If you have someone who loves to do outreach and is great at relationship building, ask them to join the subcommittee to utilize their skills to build trust. Have a mix of people who are committed to meeting the goals of the region and the CoC to fill out your subcommittee membership. Another thing to think about is also that your subcommittee should leverage relationships in your regional committee. If no one on your subcommittee has a relationship with one of the agencies you want to recruit, brainstorm and see if there's someone on your regional committee, another person that has a good relationship with him. Ask that person to introduce you instead of doing a cold call to the agency yourself. We found that the key to successful recruitment is building relationships and trust with the agency, and I 100% agree with that. Next slide. And now my dog is scratching at the door. The Funding and Performance Subcommittee will provide support to regions and evaluate progress. Wait just a second. The Funding and Performance Subcommittee will provide oversight and support local efforts, provide resources for recruitment to help in engagement and recruitment efforts, review, provide feedback, and answer questions from the monthly progress updates from each of the regional committees, adjust the continuum of cares plan as needed based on local feedback. So this will be a continuum tweaking what works, what isn't working. Something works in one region, doesn't work in another one. Evaluation and communicate these adjustments to local subcommittees and attend recruitment meetings as needed. So the fact that we can build this as a balance of state as we go is a phenomenal thing, that it's not just, one prescription for everybody across all of our regions. And because again, that doesn't work. And so we'll need your feedback to help us decide, to help us evaluate what works and doesn't work.
Thanks, Amy. So what we've done is we have developed some resources to help in your recruitment efforts. We know that some of you are really familiar with HMIS and some of you are not as familiar with HMIS. Some of you, I know, as regional lead alternates are victim service providers, so you're prohibited from using HMIS. But we know that, the initial conversations really need to be happening at the local level. And in order to help you understand the sorts of things that you might need to do, We want to, make sure that we surround you with the resources that you need to be able to begin those conversations, even if they need to be passed off to the Funding and Performance Subcommittee eventually, or to the data center to finish everything out. So the Funding and Performance Subcommittee knows that in order to do a good job of engaging and recruiting these new agencies and programs onto HMIS, that we have to have a range of resources for you. So we are recording today's webinar. So regional lead alternates, that's you guys, will not be doing the work alone. And I think that's really important for you to hear. You really are going to be serving in a facilitation role in the community, really trying to organize and recruit members to your subcommittee. And your subcommittee will be really working together to do these the recruitment and engagement efforts. We want to engage regional committee partners in the recruitment efforts, forming that subcommittee that will develop the plan and engage agencies to join HMIS. So the recorded webinar can be shared with your local subcommittee members so that they have the scope of the work we're undertaking at the CoC in 2021. Ask your subcommittee members to watch the webinar before your first meeting so that everyone will have the context of the plan and allow you to jump right into forming your local recruitment plan and engaging agencies. The next thing that we're providing to you guys is a regional 2020 housing inventory count. We want to give you the names of the agencies and the programs that operate in your region that are not on HMIS. Some of them you may be familiar with and some of them you may not. But this document will give you the contact information that we have for these agencies right now. We have recently updated that contact information because we're in the midst of the 2021 housing inventory count. So hopefully that may not be the exact person you need to get to, but at least you'll have contact information for someone. What this will do is give you a snapshot of the size of the programs. It'll help you guys as you are formulating your plan to prioritize which agencies and programs to recruit. As your subcommittee discusses the potential plan, it will be important to think about your order of priority. You really can't go to everybody at one time. And so recruiting agencies with larger number of beds will help accelerate meeting our goals. Some agencies may already be thinking about joining HMIS, so that might require just a lighter engagement touch and just kind of a little nudge or push towards getting them on board. Some agencies may be important to recruit so that their clients have easier access to the coordinated entry system and thus greater chances of being permanently housed. Some agencies you may already have a close relationship with that might be easier to engage and recruit. And I think those are the sorts of things to think about with your subcommittee members. If there is low-hanging fruit, I'm sure that you all have heard about that, that term low-hanging fruit in your community. Folks that might be a little bit easier, it will kind of accelerate those efforts to do that. You're going to use the 2020 housing inventory count document to really talk through your order of engagement, the one that makes sense for your community and its needs. The next resource that we have for you guys are sample scripts. And these are going to be able to help you guide conversations. We know that many of you may need assistance with what to talk about when you have a call or face-to-face meeting with people you're trying to recruit. The Funding and Performance Subcommittee has developed some sample scripts that can guide your conversations and provide key information to share. We understand that these sample scripts are just a starting point for you. We want you to use them as a guide, but we also want you to trust your instincts about what you think will interest the agencies to join HMIS. It's important to acknowledge that you will not have all of the answers to the questions. The sample scripts are there really to help you get started. And then the next resource that we're going to talk about will help answer some of those more in-depth questions or what the next steps may be. For other questions that you may get from agencies, it's a good time to reach out to the Funding and Performance Subcommittee and the CoC staff to help, to engage them to get involved deeper in the conversation. I think the thing to understand is that, with these engagement efforts, it might not be a one and done kind of thing, right? You may have like an introductory conversation with folks, and then more information may be needed. Connecting them to folks who have a little more knowledge, the technical knowledge, to answer some of those questions. So it may take, several engagements to actually get them to the point of getting onto the system. And then this last one is a simple guide. So this document is going to help identify agency responsibilities by joining HMIS and the steps that they have to take to get licensed and begin entering information into the system. We also wanted to give you information to answer what we think are probably some common questions that all agencies think about when they're thinking about joining HMIS and what they may ask. As mentioned before, this will not be a comprehensive list of questions that will be asked, but it should provide subcommittees with the basics and allow you to connect these agencies that you're engaging to funding performance subcommittee members and CoC staff to have those deeper conversations. So the resources are going to be posted on the funding and performance subcommittee page on the NCCEH website at the link shown on this slide. We have, there are a number of accordion files. You'll just do a drop down. There's one specifically for HMIS recruitment that you can click on, and it will have all of these resources there. We've got most of those things up at this point. I think we are still finalizing the 2020 HIC for you guys. And we obviously don't have the recording up yet, but we should have those things coming soon for you. Everything else, I think, is posted on the website at this point. We're hoping to have all of that done by the end of the day. So the other thing that is, a responsibility for the regional lead alternates is around reporting. We do want to report our monthly activities. We're hoping to meet these goals by the end of 2021. And so understanding where we are, what that progress looks like, the challenges that you all are maybe having is going to be really important so that we can adjust our plan as we need to as we go throughout 2021. So regions will report monthly to the Funding and Performance Subcommittee so that we can evaluate our progress and address any of those challenges that you may be having. And the Funding and Performance Subcommittee, as Amy said earlier, is going to facilitate changes, right? If we need to make adjustments to our plan, to our goals, then that will help us do all of that work. We've tried to simplify this reporting for you so that it's an easy task as the regional lead alternate. We're really only asking for information that helps the Funding and Performance Subcommittee see who is being engaged, the status of that engagement, and when the Funding and Performance Subcommittee and NCCEH staff need to get involved. So the things that we're going to ask you to report on are the agency or program name and the date of engagement. And then you'll give a status of that individual engagement effort, right? So have you called or emailed them and you're awaiting a response? Have you scheduled your initial call or meeting with them? Being really hopeful, we put this one towards the top. Ready to join HMIS and need the materials just to get started. Are they interested in additional information and need to schedule a time with data center staff to speak with the recruiter and the agency? Are they interested, but they're not ready to make a decision? Is follow-up needed? And then kind of projecting out when that follow-up will happen. If there's technical assistance needed from the data center, there may be questions that you guys can't answer that where you may need to connect with the data center. And then hopefully not, but I'm sure that we will have some agencies that are just not interested in joining HMIS. So each month, you will do reporting for us by the 15th of the following month. So the first report is going to be due on April the 15th. We are using a Smartsheet form for you to be able to put that information in. It's a pretty simple form. We have the link here. And that link is also on the HMIS recruitment resources page from that link earlier, so that you'll always have that link to be able to do that. You fill out that form and you hit submit, and that'll come directly to us. The Funding and Performance Review, or the Funding Performance Subcommittee will review that information on a monthly basis at their meetings, evaluate progress, and follow up with you guys as needed. I'm going to stop there before we get into timeline and see if we have any questions. Andrea, I don't know if there's anything in the chat at this point, or if folks want to unmute their line and ask questions. We can. This is a good time for any questions you may have. Lanuzzi asked, the smart sheet has all the necessary questions that we need to answer. Yes, it does. So it will, it'll lead you through kind of all of those things that we went through about status. It'll ask the name of the agency, the date of the engagement, and the status of that. If you do require, if there's follow-up that's required, it'll ask you for that date. I think at this point in the smart sheet, we have up to 3 agencies that you may have engaged during that month. If we find that you guys are doing more than that, we can add more than 3 slots for agencies. Just let us know that that needs to happen, and we can update the form to allow you to do more of that. The other thing that you'll notice, there is a question about whether this is a new agency or a continuing agency. So if it's the first time that you've engaged them during this process, then you'll mark new. We also want you to report, if in the first monthly report you have reported that it's a new agency and you've reached out to them, and then the second month you've engaged them and had a conversation, we want you to mark that as continuing in the second month and give us the status. So over time we may need to add more of those agencies because you may do some follow-up with those agencies or kind of the continuum throughout the year of doing recruitment and engagement with them. So be mindful of that, is that we want you to report not only the new agencies and their status, but we also want you to report if things have changed with the agencies that you may have reported on in prior months. Natasha, I'm not sure. I see your question here. I do not see my name on the subcommittee list. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking there. Can you unmute yourself and maybe explain what that may be? Oh, I see. Thank you. Yes, regional lead alternate. Yeah, regional. So you may have, I don't know if you joined us at the beginning and heard this, but so regional lead alternates in every one of our regions are the ones that are kind of facilitating this process in their region, forming those subcommittees in their region. So you as a regional lead alternate in Region 6 are kind of facilitating these conversations in the subcommittee in Region 6. You just automatically got chosen as a regional lead alternate. All right, so let's go on. We're going to go through timeline, and we'll have some more time for questions in just a minute. So we do have an aggressive timeline. The launch of the process begins today with this orientation webinar. We will have the aforementioned resources ready and available on the NCCH website for you guys as regional lead alternates, hopefully by the end of the day. The Funding and Performance Subcommittee would like local recruitment subcommittees formed by February 23rd. Subcommittees should have their local regional recruitment plans developed by March 9th and begin outreach by March 15th. We know that is a quick timeline for you guys, but we also know that we're already, well into the first quarter of the year, and these are goals that we want to meet by the end of 2021. We understand it's going to take you some time to recruit members of your subcommittee and formulate your plan of action. However, we don't want to wait too long for us to get started. So that's why we've kind of put some really aggressive dates in here for you. The CoC has set an ambitious goal, and we need to set an ambitious plan. If we can increase the number of emergency shelters and transitional housing programs on our HMIS, we'll have more comprehensive data, better understanding of the scope of the challenge we face across our 79 counties, and be able to connect people we serve to the services and housing they need to end their homelessness. We are so often reliant on the point in time to really tell us how many people are in our communities it's the most comprehensive count that we have every year. Obviously, this year we're not doing an unsheltered count, so this year we're really going to have a hole in where we are. HMIS is every single day, 365 days of the year. If we have the majority of our homeless service programs, our housing unit programs that are dedicated for folks who are experiencing homelessness on HMIS, then that means that we can look every single day and see what, see what our data looks like. How many people are we serving? What types of people are we serving? It really allows us to move at a much quicker pace, evaluate what we're doing, and make adjustments quickly. As we said, regional lead alternates are going to report on a monthly basis by the 15th of the following month. And just a reminder, that first monthly report is going to due April 15th using that Smartsheet link. We have provided a link to the HMIS bed coverage procedures document. So this is a document that the Funding and Performance Subcommittee created that really lays out the full scope of the plan. It has everything that we've talked about today. We've put that link here so that you can take a look at that. It's in narrative form rather than webinar form. So if you do better by actually reading that, taking the time to do that, take a look at that document. It's something that you can share with your subcommittees. It's something that you could also share with your full regional committee. I think it's really important for you to share about what you're doing in your regional committee and how important that is. While you guys as regional lead alternates are kind of facilitating this plan and you're, bringing that subcommittee together in your community, it really is the full regional committee's responsibility to help you guys make sure that you are making the connections that you all need to do and meet the goals that you all have set for yourselves and the CoC has set for increasing bed coverage. And, I think the most important thing for you guys is you're not alone in this. The Funding and Performance Subcommittee is committed to making sure that we are helping you guys in community. Certainly the CoC staff is here on a daily basis to be able to answer questions, reaching out to us when you need our help. We're here. You can reach out to the CoC staff and the data center staff. I am the CoC staff person that's assigned to the Funding and Performance Subcommittee. Andrea Carey from the data center, who you heard from earlier, is the person that's assigned from the data center side. I think that we're probably the ones that you want to reach out to, but you can reach us at these two email addresses and the phone numbers that are there. I will stop there. I'm just going to go ahead and stop the recording and see if folks have questions.